Hello and welcome, Team Phoenix, to our newest show, The Social Sales Engineer. Today we have an amazing guest, so welcome everybody on a live stream. Please use the comment, and everybody who's watching the recording, please comment too. We can see this after the recording and we can have a chat and answer all of your questions even afterwards. But here we have him, my personal hero, Ramzi Marjaba. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. I don't know. I appreciate that I'm your personal hero. Not sure why, but I'll take the compliment. Question. Are we supposed to read whatever you have in the overlay? Because I was just busy dancing to the music.
Yeah, no, you can read afterwards. That's okay. But I have more overlays, so this is you.
Yes, it is me.
Do you want to tell us something about you? So what do you do in your daily life? And tell us about We the Sales Engineers. Maybe some quick intro to you.
Sure. So I am currently happily employed. I work for a company called Keysight. I've been moved, I guess. I'm in a new role. It's a sales specialist role. So I'm a hybrid between sales and sales engineering. I also have We the Sales Engineers, which I started back in 2018 because I found out that I sucked as a sales engineer. So I started it to learn, and it's basically podcasts, YouTube videos, blogs, and you were on show 190, and that's the latest. No, 191, and that's 191. That's the latest show I got. So 191 episodes.
And it's amazing, right? So I looked at your YouTube channel. You have over 280 videos, like content, resources for sales engineers. That's simply amazing, right? This is 10 number show of the first season. So you're my 10th guest. So just to compare this, this whole thing. 3 years in social media, that's amazing. I actually have one question in that regard. So this show is called The Social Sales Engineer. Also, the book that I wrote, it's about getting social as SE, right? We are sometimes shy, we're introvert. So what I would love to ask you, with your experience, what is the biggest myth that sales engineers got told about social media?
I think it's like a general myth where it's you have to write content in order to be a social engineer. And in my opinion, you could write content, but you don't have to start there. You can simply curate other people's contents and, just share with your thoughts. Another myth is just like sharing whatever somebody else writes without any thought to it. That's also bad. But if you take somebody else's writing or YouTube video or whatever, comment on it and share it, you're now a thought leader. So that's what I think.
That's amazing. That's really amazing because, I mean, I come a bit from the integration world, right? And it seems like everything is written there. So application integration stuff. But of course, I could dissect huge blog posts that are out there, right? And cut them into pieces, and maybe this stuff is 10 years old, and I could say, well, this is not relevant today anymore because this was replaced by that. And suddenly, you're sharing content and make it more valuable. And that's,
and you don't have to agree with everything that's written or said. I mean, you can, if your opinion differs from what's on the paper, or I guess the blog, you're adding more value than agreeing. Because if you're just agreeing, you're great. You didn't do anything. But if you disagree and you have a different point of view, you don't have to write an entire blog, but a post, like a 5-sentence post, and you're done. So it's much easier. You can scale it down or scale it up as much as you want as a sales engineer.
Yeah. But why? Why should I do it? So I'm a sales engineer. You tell me you don't need to create original content. But why should I do it? Why should I look at other people's stuff, comment, and share?
I mean, you don't have to. I can do it for you, and I can get all the best jobs and my customers. But I guess that's the rule. It's just right now, especially in the world we're living in today, it's hard to connect with people. I used to be able to go visit customers and tap them on the shoulder and say hi. Right now, so far removed. Even after this whole pandemic is over, customers might not go back to the office. So I need other ways to reach them. And this will just keep you top of mind, especially if you're sharing things that would be interesting to your customers. On the other hand, you want to differentiate yourself from other people, one way, shape, or form. I mean, forget about the customers. Think about yourself. You're a business. As a person, you're a business, and you want to market yourself. You want to be able to find the best job for yourself, take care of your family. If no one knows about you, it's much harder for you to find a job. The more you're out there and in a professional manner, the more you get visibility, the easier for people to see you and reach out to you. You might not get a job, but you might get an interview much easier than other people.
Yeah. Or an opportunity to maybe be on a podcast. Like I remember you reached out to me asking, "Hey Patrick, do you want to come on the show?" Right? And I found this like, what? Crazy. Yeah, Ramzi. Amazing. I will come, of course. So you really masters this also by being social, right? So there's no harm in writing messages, because I remember really being like, oh, can I write somebody on the platform? Is this okay, right? What people think if I do? What do you think?
My goal, I don't like. So it was the first few episodes I had talked to people that I know on the podcast, and then I ran out of people that I know. So if I wanted to keep having people, and the goal was to have one episode a week, and I was not confident enough in my abilities to say that I have something to share. So I always wanted to get somebody else to be on the podcast. And my only option was to reach out to other people. And it's amazing how many sales engineers just say yes.
Yeah.
They say it's a numbers game, and you reach, especially when you're working with customers and cold calling, and you have to reach out to 10 people to get one to answer you. With sales engineers, you reach out to 10 people, 9 will answer you, and one will answer you 2 years later, but they'll still answer.
That's really cool. There's one more thing I have in mind. This one. I think this is pretty interesting. Like, you're Ramzi, right? You are we the sales engineers with Beanie together, right? But I heard he will leave, or he is not in the show anymore.
Yeah, we kind of got him to leave the show for some reason. Your episode was the last episode. He said, "No more. I've reached the pinnacle of having discussions with people. I can retire happy now." So yeah, Benny's busy doing other things, so he will no longer be a co-host on the show.
And it's sad. He was great. He brought some straightness in there. So his comments and questions are really to the point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but back to the question. So your personal brand and your business brand. You're Ramzi in both situations. And be the sales engineer is a bit of a personal thing, I think. Does it have effect on the business, or do things merge then? How is it for you?
So not directly. So if you consider Ramzi as a business, which I consider every human being is their own business, their own CEO, and they're trying to get raises and whatnot, it helped me secure a better job than I had in the past. So if you want to consider that business, sure. It could also be personal. From the business side, it's given me a little bit more credibility. I work with the same customers over and over, and most of my customers know about my podcast and the blog that I have for sales engineering. So although they might, my customers aren't sales engineers. They're product verification engineers for networking companies. But they hear me on the podcast. They know who I am. I've reached out to several people. It's like, oh yeah, I've heard of you. I've seen you on LinkedIn. So it just made it a little bit warmer. Now I still have to go through the process of proving myself to them that I'm not just a pretty face on the internet. Not that anyone would agree that I'm a pretty face, but I still have to go through the emotions. It's warmer, and I've already established a bit of a connection with the potential customer. Was that the question that you asked, or did I just answer something completely different?
Something completely different, but it doesn't matter. No, no, it's all good. I think the point is, people say, well, what should I post about, for example, right? So if you have questions, please ask in the comments. Question to Ramzi about his social media life, whatever. He is really experienced. But what I mean is, so do you post personal content, or how far do you go, or how much of you do you expose, right? Because I think people would say, well, that's my job, and I don't want to go and post on social media about business or my job, or mix it up with like whatever happens there nowadays, right? Like personal content in any kind. Yeah.
I mean, so I put my personality into everything that I post, but most of what I post is sales engineering oriented. I don't even post things for my current company, because when I asked for permission to post stuff for my current company, I had to go through a whole process of talking to marketing, getting it approved, editing, and adding stuff. So some companies make it just harder for SEs to participate. But people know who I am based on the podcast. I talk about myself in the podcast. I talk about the fact that I have 3 kids. I don't hide. I don't necessarily show my kids' faces, or pictures of me working out, because that's nothing to do with my brand. So I'm on brand. If your brand is personal, then maybe LinkedIn isn't the best place for you. It could be Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. But if the brand is professional, put your personality into the brand. I make jokes all the time on my podcast and off my podcast. My comments are almost always not serious, because I like to make jokes, and people tend to like me. And I don't want to fake it. I don't want to be somebody I'm not. It's just too much work to be somebody I'm not. And the reason I would be doing that is so people to like me. But almost always people will like me for who I am. And if they don't, then maybe we don't need to be in a relationship. So I hope I answered the question right now. Second time around.
You did. Actually, I have another one, but I can't find it here. I will ask it anyways. Here it is. How do you come up with ideas? You have, I don't know, 191 episodes of your show. So generally 901 ideas might be in there. And you provide blog posts and you do videos. So how do you come up with this creativity? And is this something God-given, or do you think, well, actually, everybody could do this in some way?
I think the more you create, the more ideas you get. It's like pushing a big rock up a hill. Initially, it's hard, but then as you push it, it gets easier and easier. And then when you get to the top of the hill, it just goes downhill, much easier. But if you don't start, you're never going to come up with ideas. If you don't ask yourself the questions, it's hard to come up with ideas. And right now, because I talk with so many people and so many people reach out to me, ideas they present themselves at this point. Like, I don't even have to think about it much. And as for the 190 podcast episodes, my job is really easy there. I don't need to come up with ideas. I'm basically asking somebody else questions. So Patrick, when we wanted to talk, it's like, hey, what are you passionate about? What do you want to talk about on the show? And you're like, oh, I wrote this book, The Social Sales Engineer. I would like to talk about being a social sales engineer. I'm like, all right, that was easy. I didn't even have to come up with an idea. I just had to ask the question. What do you want to talk about? And that's what I do with a lot of people. And when people stop presenting ideas, I just, I think to myself, what problems am I running into? Or, I can put constraints around it. Let's say I want to talk about discovery. So I think about what problems am I running into in discovery? What did I see that's good? What did I see that's bad? And because not every sales engineer is working to improve themselves, I can see the good and the bad. So I see the SEs that are working to improve themselves, what they're doing well, and the SEs that are just, living their life the way they do it, not improving. I see what they do incorrectly, and I can combine blogs based on that. So, but you have to start.
Yeah.
Basically, take a pen, a paper, and write down ideas. They could be all bad, but at some point you're going to get one that's good, and then you're going to get another and another and another.
Exactly. No, that's cool. And do you think it's God-given, or So do you need to be born as a creative person?
I am not a creative person. I am definitely not a creative person. Like, I couldn't paint between the lines. My son paints better than me, and I am creative in the. I guess we all have creativity within us in different ways. Software engineers could be creative when it comes to creating software, but they're not good artists, or they cannot come up with good topics. But you won't know until you try. And the thing I did was I committed to a year. I said I'm going to do a podcast for 1 year, a weekly episode. So I didn't really have a choice. I had to come up with ideas. If you don't commit, you're not going to do it.
Yeah. I think that's a great advice. Yeah. You have to start. It's the same with the writing. You need to write every day. Otherwise, the muse doesn't appear, right? And most of the days she isn't there at all. but yeah, you told me a secret. You want to write a book.
I've been writing a book for 2 years.
You're on it. You're structure-wise.
Yeah.
You told me you're adding, like ideas come, you add a new structure or topic to this.
Like the structure is the same, but let's say I'm talking about sales engineer, the different kinds of sales engineer. Right? You have specialist, generalist, whatever. I just learned about channel, so I went back and I had to reread what I wrote and figure out where I need to add channel. And but the book isn't even complete, so I'm already editing, and sometimes it goes a month without me writing anything because life, and I've committed to other things than writing. So then I have to remember what I wrote, and then I read, oh, this doesn't even make sense. Just delete everything and start over, and then, I need a better framework around writing stuff. But yeah, I've been wanting to write a book about sales engineering based on the things that I've learned over the last 3 years from talking to people like you, Chris White, Peter Cohen, John Kerr, Peter Pizzi, like a million people that I talked to not a million, 180 that I talked to on the podcast. So.
And what's your idea? What's the key principle or the key thing a sales engineer would take from your book away?
Sales engineering is a sport.
A sport, okay.
Sport. And the key takeaway is, like every athlete, we have to have time to practice. We have to have time to prepare. We have to have coaches. And that's the only way to succeed and excel. And what I see right now is most of our practice, if we ever get to do practice, it's like in front of the camera. If we get to do practice at all. So we don't have anybody giving us feedback. So if we're doing something and we think it's right, even though it's wrong, we're never going to get past that. Most of the time, the practice time gets booked by somebody else, usually the salesperson, to go to a meeting. We end up practicing live in front of customers. And at that point, we're too afraid to take risks and get creative, which is what you were talking about.
Yeah.
And no one to give us feedback. Right? Our manager is busy managing 17,000 things. Who's gonna give us feedback? Who's gonna coach us? And because it's a sport, we have to think about all of that. Right? And the only sport, like from what I've seen, sometimes we get those 3-day training, like whether it's with you, Chris White, or even a sales training, like solution selling or all that. And then we get out, we forget almost everything, unless somebody keeps like banging into our heads. And then they tell us, all right, you had 3 days of practice. Now go play against Messi. Dude, he's been doing this his entire. He started playing soccer at 5 years old, like in his mother's womb. I had 3 days of practice, and now I'm supposed to be a professional. So that's what I think about it.
Okay.
Sorry, I went on a rant.
Yeah. Please rant more. It's amazing. So, and you talked about Messi. Is Messi one of your mentors?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of athletes, like whoever makes it there, is kind of my mentor. I watch. Well, I don't watch sports anymore, unfortunately, but Michael Jordan would be the top for me. And his mentality and the way that he does things and the way he makes practice hard so that game day is easy. And we never do that. As when we practice, everything's gone perfectly. And then we show up and everything crashes and we don't know how to deal with it. So yeah, so Michael Jordan would be my like top, I guess.
Do you know the book Mindset? From Carolyn Dwayne or so. I don't remember the author exactly.
Yeah.
It's about fixed and growth mindset, and Michael Jordan is in there. Like, and I was really surprised. I'm not American, right? And I'm not into basketball too much, so I didn't know his life story. But he was actually it was like he want to become sales engineer, and everybody says you're stupid, go away, you will never make this, and then he gets the best on the planet, right?
Yeah. It's what you believe you can. I mean, there are limits, but you cannot. Basically, I don't know who said that, but you will achieve what you believe, or if you believe it to be true, then you're right. I think Jim Rohn said, if you believe it, I don't know. I'm gonna butcher it, so I'm just gonna shut up now. But yeah, the book by Carol Dweck was a good one.
Yeah, Dweck. Yeah, exactly. Henry Ford said something similar. Like, if you believe it or not, like you will fail or win, or something like this.
If you don't believe it, you'll definitely fail. If you do believe it, you might succeed.
There's a chance.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay. So,
and
how do you hack your day? Let's go a bit personal, maybe.
Okay.
What do you do daily that makes things maybe easier, right? So you're a father of 3, you have your show, you have your job, right? Then you need to go on other shows. How do you find time?
I think time is always there. It's just you don't have to waste it. I've always been efficient in what. So if there's one thing that's God given, is I've been efficient. So in school, university, whenever there's like a 3-hour exam, I'll finish it in an hour 15 minutes. And if I don't finish it in an hour 15 minutes, it means I don't know something, and I'm just not going to finish it. So I've always been efficient in what I do, and I have goals. Like, I want to achieve my goals. These are the things that I need to do today, and I do the hardest thing first, and the rest of the day is coasting. The big thing I'm working on I ask a question in my podcast, like, is there a habit you're working on today? And the big thing I'm trying to work on is going to sleep early, because with 3 kids, and you have a 6-year-old, almost 4, and almost 1, I'm not guaranteed a full night's sleep. But if I go to sleep early, I get to, first off, sleep early, and if I have to wake up, at least I would have slept a little bit more during the night. So if I sleep well, my day is amazing. I'm nonstop. My stamina is just, that's when I get to do all the things that I need to do in the day. If I sleep a little bit late, I don't think that was what I don't know if you were expecting me talking about sleep, but for me, sleep. If I sleep a little bit late, the next day I'm down a YouTube rabbit hole for some reason, talking about like the best movies of the 1930s, which I'm never gonna watch. So yeah, so for me, sleeping well sets me up for the day.
Okay. No, that's great. And I think people sleep far too less, like me included sometimes. And why? Because I watched some stupid Netflix thing at the end of my already long day. I think now I need to relax, right? And it's already 10 or so. I completely get you. Yeah.
So what happened to me was I was sleeping late as well, because I was working. Like, I put the kids to sleep, and then I'd work till, I don't know, 10, 11, whatever it is. And then I'd need like an hour to relax and unwind. And now I'm in bed at 12:30, and the kids start waking up at 6:30, 7, and now I'm tired. So I just decided to sacrifice a bit of work and stop work at 9:25. Like, I have an alarm at 9:20, tells me like, Ramzi, just get up and go. Finish up what you're doing, write down what you need to do tomorrow, and go upstairs and hang out with the wife. So it's little incremental things that, like, I'm sleeping late because I'm doing this. This is a sales engineering podcast, but we're not talking sales engineering. But this is what I'm facing today, I guess.
I mean, that's definitely helpful, right? Your clients don't want I don't know, not fully their Ramzi, right? They want you full steam, full power, right? I guess.
Yeah. I mean, when they ask me how you're doing, I can't tell them, I'm so exhausted. I didn't sleep well last night. Yeah.
They want to hear. They don't want to hear this exactly.
No.
and maybe back to the sales engineering bit. Do you think we should be entertainers or actors?
Yes. I mean,
Oh,
so I was attending a demo from someone, and the tone was a little bit boring. There was a little bit too much on the screen, and I found myself focusing on one aspect of the stream, which is not what the person is talking about. And in my mind, it's like, oh, man, I should have paid attention. But also, I mean, one, the screen should have been less junky, and two, there needs to be something to keep my attention.
mm-hmm.
I don't want to listen to a monotone voice. If I want to do that, I'd go meditate. I'd put some like music and meditate. I need someone to keep my attention. And it's my job as a sales engineer to keep my customer, like, if you don't want to be entertainers, you just can't be boring. So find the middle line. And entertaining is better than like neutral. And you want to be memorable. There are different things that you want to do to keep your customers' attention. Not only keep your customers' attention, make sure they remember you afterwards.
Exactly.
And if you're not entertaining, if you're not memorable, if you don't joke with them, if you don't connect with them, they're not going to remember you. You're going to be, oh, that tall guy or that bearded guy or that gray-haired guy or that glasses person. It's just, you need to.
Or the who was there?
Yeah, which one was that? Was it the first, second, or they're all a blur to me.
And is there something else you do to get actually the unexpected across to clients? So it's in terms of preparation. I mean, do you get creative, for example, in slide deck do you open up with the limbic opener, right, that we know from Demo to Win? And what would this be? Like, do you have something there?
I don't do presentations. That's the
okay.
thing. I have conversations with them and I make jokes. And
okay, if this sells.
I joke. Well, it's building a connection, right? And
exactly. Okay.
If the customer is laughing, I mean, if they don't get the joke after the fifth joke, then shut up and stop making jokes and figure something else out. But for me, it works. I just joke with my customers. They like me. And I whiteboard a lot more than I do presentations. I mean, how many times do you actually want to look at a presentation and listen to someone talk about reading the points there?
No, that's not that's what I mean, right? So if you manage, let's say you have a RFP readout or you a proposal readout of the D cycle, whatever. You're in front of executives, they want the summary, right? Now you have the chance, do I read this from the slide or I do it the Ramzi way, like the unexpected? Would you crack jokes one after another? Or
well, yeah, that's a kind of a different situation. I don't think I've done a lot of that in terms of like presenting proposals. I mean, I've talked about proposals, but I try to avoid presentations as much as possible. Like I would bring up an Excel spreadsheet, and I'd rather bring up an Excel spreadsheet and show them that and talk about it and like change it on the fly with them and figure out configurations. I personally don't like PowerPoint presentations. Maybe it's because I hate watching someone doing a PowerPoint presentation, and like I don't know. It's just for me. I find it like fixed. You can't really manipulate a PowerPoint presentation while you're doing a presentation.
Yeah.
Something I've been thinking about, like everybody talks about how we need as SEs to improve at public speaking. And I'm thinking we're not public speakers. We are public askers. That's our job. Like even when we're doing a presentation, our job is to ask questions more than to dump information. So PowerPoint presentations is not conducive to that, which is why I avoid it at all costs.
Yeah, that's cool. No, I mean, that's a great principle, right? So you never fall into the trap of being doing something expected. I like it a lot, right? So yes, we should be entertainers. Completely agree. Yeah. Be memorable. Memorable? Yeah. You mentioned meditation before. Do you meditate?
So I try to relieve stress by meditation, but then I realized that I'm getting stressed about going to meditate.
Okay.
So right now, I just take a few minutes outside, breathe some air, and come back in. Maybe I'll try to do it again at some point. It's just, for me, meditation seems stressful. I'm doing it wrong, probably. So
I mean, there are different ways to do that, right? So, but how would you do it? So, what's your way?
uh,
What would be your structure, or how have you get taught it?
I didn't get taught. I have a software, like a kind of, Headspace or Calm. It's something called Brain FM. I use that, and I sit on a couch and I listen to the person talking. Some of it is good. Some of it I didn't enjoy. It's just the fact that I need to get up and go do it. I'd rather do 100 push-ups.
And you do the push-ups all the time?
Well, no. I right now I'm doing jump rope, but yeah, I'm doing something.
Okay, but that's good. So you actually punish yourself?
Not necessarily. Like I've punished myself through my podcast by not deleting ums and ahs, and when I make a mistake, I keep it in the podcast. But like for missing a meditation, I mean, I thought meditation was punishment enough. So.
Okay, but it's like I think it's like the creativity bit, right? You have to do it and do it regularly. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I tried it regular. Like I did it. I don't know what you consider regular. I did it for 2 weeks, and by the end of the second week, I'm more stressed about going to do the meditation than the relief like it's going to provide.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, I just decided to go jump. Like my ceiling isn't high enough for me to even do jump rope here, so I just jump. I carry dumbbells in my 2-pound dumbbells in my hand we bought it for my son, and I just jump around like twisting my hands as if I have a jump rope in my hand.
That's interesting. Yeah, nice. So those are the usual problems, right? So there's meditation that should help, but you're more frustrated from trying it. That's amazing. There is another question that I have on my list. What's a failure that made you more successful in the long run?
All right, ready for this. So I joined as a sales engineer in my previous company in 2014, and I learned from my salesperson. So he was my mentor at the time. My sales engineer manager was remote. I was the only one in my territory. I learned the spray and pray methodology. And I was very good at it.
Say that again.
The spray and pray.
Spray and pray. Okay.
So I learned that, and I did it for 1.5 years. I was hitting quota. I was doing well, and then we had a big meeting with a customer we were trying to win back. So the senior VP of sales came up. The VP of field engineering came up. Basically, the whole world came up. Because of that, we decided to schedule 5 other meetings. And we did the same presentation that we did in the main meeting where they cared about this thing. We did it 4 more times. And by the end of the last meeting, I was presenting the last meeting, and my customer says, "I don't care about anything you're showing me right now," in the presence of my senior VP and the senior VP of field engineering. He was very nice about it, the customer, but he didn't care about it. So. All right, that was a big mess. After the last call, I got pulled into my senior VP's conference room, and he's like, "Ramzi, you didn't do any discovery." And that was 1.5 years into my career, and I'm like, "What is a discovery?" That's the genesis. That's the reason I came up with We the SEs. That's why I started We the SEs. So I started reading every sales book. There weren't that many sales engineering books. I found great Demo and Demo to Win. I read those, and then I started talking to SEs within my company, and they were doing the same mistakes that I was doing.
Yeah.
So I figured the best way for me to learn is to go talk to people outside of my company. So I started a podcast. I got people like you, people that had no business or no need to jump on the podcast with me. And since then, I've been very successful because I know what sales engineering is, what I'm supposed to do. And although I'm not successful in every meeting that I go into, in the long run, I've been successful because I've been able to fix it or sustain it or learn from it and move on. So.
Yeah, doing this shows is a real learning experience in itself. Yeah. I have the same feeling. Yeah. I learned so much from you.
Even if you don't learn anything from me, when you start articulating your own thoughts and you realize like, oh, I'm saying this, but I did it that way the last time. So next time you do it, you remember that, you just learn even from just yourself.
Yeah.
Just thinking time, basically. So
Yeah, it's the same in writing. You crystallize your thoughts, and when you see them written, it's like, gosh, this doesn't make sense. I need to rethink this. You maybe have realized this when writing your book.
Yeah.
Like something's like, oh, that sounds weird.
But you have no idea how many times I tell myself, oh, you're an idiot for thinking this. Think about it some more and then, write it down better. Figure it out. Or go talk to someone, learn, and come and write it again. Like, I didn't know I wrote about channel sales engineers, but I haven't talked to many. So I didn't really know what they do, what they care about. And then I talked to, he's been on your show.
Kyle McGovern. Yeah. Great guy. Yes.
He was able to articulate, although he doesn't think that he was able to articulate. He sent me a message later saying, oh, I should learn to articulate this better. I'm like, right? He articulated it very well for me. Right? That's what the channel sales engineer is. And now I know better. But I'm going to talk to a few more as well to get their input because different people have different thoughts about the same thing. And if you limit yourself, if you're in your own bubble, you're never going to break out of it. You're never going to learn. And maybe somebody else has a better ideas out there.
That brings me to a question. Do you do the show for you? So is it something egoistic or is it for the community?
I started it for myself. It's a selfish thing. I wanted to learn. I wanted to be a better SE. And the best way for me to tell people to come and talk to me was to tell them I have a podcast. So I started for selfish reasons and in hopes that other people would learn from it as well. And now I'm doing it for other selfish reasons that I feel good when people reach out to me and tell me like, Ramzi, we just learned so much from you. And in the last 6 months, my salesperson is telling me that I'm a completely different SE. That just brings joy. And that's the reason I do it now.
Yeah.
Versus when I started.
How do you feel as a creator in general? I mean, you're creating a lot of assets, right? Everything you say, you do, you post.
I feel like I need to work a lot more on it. I feel like I have so much room for improvement about my thoughts, about the way I articulate things. I still hear myself saying and and which pisses me off, So yeah, I feel like I have a lot to learn. I'm not even close to mastering it. So it's gonna take. I just said so. It's gonna take a while.
What if you could delete everything that you did, but could start with your experience, like a new thing? So maybe there's something that blocks you today from doing something new. What would this be? Everything is deleted, like YouTube dies or something like that. Nothing is there anymore. Your blog disappeared.
What would I do?
Yeah.
Like, what would I do? Like, as a new adventure?
Yeah, maybe a new creation. Like, maybe also for the sales engineering realm, but would you do something different? Because something blocks you today on going a different route? Your commitment for the show, for example, right?
No, I don't think it blocks me from... Well, maybe it does. Maybe I'm not like able to see it because I'm too far in it. That's a good question that I'm gonna have to. Like, it's hard for me to give an answer. Like, we're gonna have to talk again, and I'll need to
that sounds good.
I don't know. Like I don't know if if let's say I never did this podcast, I wouldn't be where I am today. And I know it's cliche, but I wouldn't know half of the things that I know today. I would have had to, because a lot of what I learned is by learning through other people's experience.
Yeah.
And if I have to depend on my own experience living in Ottawa in Canada, where I'm remote and not many people are around me, and the people that are around me are not necessarily doing it right, I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't be successful as I am today. If I were to start, I don't know. I honestly don't know what else I would start. I mean, I love sales engineering. I'll probably end up starting something about sales engineering. Right?
And that's fine, right? I feel that you like are really invested. It's close to your heart, definitely.
Yeah, I love it. So I am trying to help more SEs. Right? It's not blocking me. I think it could be. It would help me reach more people in order to help more people, and that's my goal. My goal is to help. I had it written down somewhere that I wanted to help with like 1,000 SEs in 3 years to get better, get promotions, or even get a job as a sales engineer. That's nice. The question is, how am I going to do that? And I have some thoughts in my mind, which I might elaborate on it later.
Okay, once you have investigated, or you have something to disclose, maybe. Okay,
I'm working on something. It's not solid, so I don't want to share at this point until it's solid and I can get it done. I don't want to promise something that I can't do.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That's cool. I'm not sure if this is a good idea, actually, but I remember I sent you a LinkedIn voice message when I was on a walk, like thinking about a show together with you. Like, maybe we can spoil a bit what we plan, and if somebody on the show in the comments wants to say something to it, happy to do so. So maybe let me introduce the core idea. And so what I told you was, look, Ramzi, I would love to do a discovery live stream with you. So what this means is we do a discovery role play, right? Live, and it should be as hard as possible. So we two actually would play kind of a customer, and two sales engineers who dare to come live would do the discovery. Maybe we have a discovery show, we have a demo, and then a proposal or something like that. So 3 shows, and maybe we present something like, you said demo flow, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's one option that we can do where someone would do a discovery. It's a discovery
or something.
Yeah. It's like a sales engineering software, which it's easy for us to understand the concept and what the benefits are, so we can do a proper discovery versus some like random software that no one's ever heard of, and it would be hard to they would need years of training on to be able to do a proper discovery. But yeah, like we thought of if you and I can be like the customers from hell, which is kind of like fun to do because we're generally meeting customers who may or may not be from there. So yeah, it'll be fun to, if anyone's interested in being like a guinea pig and doing a discovery on us, where we're just not gonna be as pleasant as I usually am or Patrick usually is, please reach out and let us know.
That would be amazing. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. This will be huge fun and a great learning experience. So the idea I have right now is about 15 minutes of discovery. Maybe we have 1 or 2 rounds, let's see. And then really 10 to 15 minutes explaining, going through this, like what went well, what could be better, right? So really reflecting on this so that there's also real, like first we laugh a lot and then we learn a lot, right? That would be amazing. Yeah, let's see. So whoever's interested, reach out to us, to Ramzi or me, and we will meet us here on this show. That would be amazing, or on this channel. Okay, no, that's great. I'm looking forward to that. And would you advise some sales engineers to actually go out this way? I mean, no, let's park this. But what is a good advice for a sales engineer that starts out? It doesn't need to be starting out on social media, but also general, right? So a lot of people come from other fields into sales engineering because they are needed, right? There are not enough people right now. So it's a good place right now to be a sales engineer. From your experience, what is this 1 or 2 advices you would give them when they start out?
Depends on what their end goals are. But one thing in general, I would say share your experience in your journey of being a sales engineer. I mean, talk about your...
What would be such an experience?
So a lot of sales engineers get dropped into new teams and there's no one around to help them, and they struggle.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're vulnerable enough, share it. If you're not vulnerable enough, connect with people, other SEs on like social media platform. I mean, you don't have to use social media platforms just to put in your thoughts to the public. You can connect with other people and reach out to other people and talk to them about your challenges that you're facing, because I'm willing to bet they're not the only one facing those challenges. Someone at some point in their career or even today are facing similar challenges, and they can help each other out. So that's one thing I would recommend. Another thing is just start reading like posts about either your industry and start sharing them. Again, it's just that simple. Be out there, don't hide, and learn as you go. I mean, I sucked as an interviewer as well as a sales engineer early on. I wasn't great at doing the podcast. I was afraid of having people on. I would be sweating the entire, like Peter Cohen came on my show and asked me to do a demo for him. I was sweating. Like I was, and it's going to be, I was going to post it on YouTube. I committed to post it on YouTube. It wasn't easy, but if you don't challenge yourself, it's never going to be easy. It's always going to be hard. If you do it once a year, it's always going to be hard. So just commit to something and then do it. Do it for a prolonged period of time. And then if you don't get the results that you want, figure out why and tweak and move forward. So.
Yeah, that's a very entrepreneurial advice.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, but good. I love it. It's great, right?
Sales engineers are kind of mini entrepreneurs, right? They're trying to solve problems. Like what entrepreneurs are basically solving problems. They're just creating something new to solve a problem, and there's a lot more that goes into doing that. But sales engineers, like they're handed the tools they need to solve the problem, but they still need to go out there and solve the problem. So that's still entrepreneurial for me, at least.
Yeah. That's great. And do you see different types of sales engineers out there? Maybe just when we talk about entrepreneurs, is every sales engineer from an entrepreneurial type, or what
not
do you
necessarily?
see?
There are many different kinds of sales engineers. There are like those who are focused on technology versus focused on sales. The thing about it is they still have to solve a problem. If like the best technology in the world, if it doesn't solve a problem, it's useless.
Yeah.
So if you're a sales engineer, your job is to solve a business problem or a technical, whatever problem. You could be more on the technical side. You could be more on the sales side. You could be an introvert. You can be an extrovert. There are different combinations of sales engineering skills that can be used to make someone a good SE or a bad SE. And it's also the role of the SE manager to figure out where that SE fits the most and what gives that person the best chance to succeed. So I've worked with SEs who are very technical, who are being pushed by their managers to go out there and take customers out to lunch, and they just hate it. Sooner or later they're going to leave. But if they're given the ability to just focus on the technology and help customers with that technology, they might thrive. So yeah, there isn't one size fits all. Sales engineers are just as different as human beings. I'm just gonna. Yeah.
How old do you think is the role of the sales engineer?
I think it's been around a long time. It just wasn't called sales engineer. It was more of, oh, you're a developer who knows how to talk. Come do a demo. So it could be 30 years, 40 years, 50 years.
What if I tell you it's older than 100 years?
I wouldn't be too surprised.
So this is a graph. so nobody can see us now, but this is a graph of Google Ngrams. It actually researches, or it looks in all books, like in the history, and if you look for sales engineer, you have a very big peak on sales engineer. I think this is 90-20. This is 90-50-60. And actually got mentioned earlier, even so it's 100 years at least, and we are here, right? So in terms of publications, this is books, by the way, and sales engineer only as a term. We are like, it's declining, right? And I'm saying this because right now we feel we are on a hype, and of course there are different titles and stuff like that. Yeah. But if you look into publications, authors tend to stick with sales engineer when they publish, right? So what we have today is far less than in the past. And I have one book from this 90-50 here, where the white phoenix is, from Bernard Lester, I think is his name. It's called Sales Engineering, and it's exactly what you said, what a sales engineer is, result driven. That's what he says throughout the whole book. He says customers don't care about how much steam the engine has, how much electricity it needs, right? All these kind of things. The customer cares about results. And it's so amazing. There are those things in there, like, demo is not the most important thing, right? It's a valuable solution, right? It's really amazing and interesting. I sometimes post stuff about this when I read this, because I have the feeling sometimes people think this is new knowledge, like do discovery, or have the customer in mind, right? And not your knowledge of the machine or the software in that case. Right? It's really amazing.
It's funny how we always think that sales engineers are just software sales engineers. I mean, in 1921, it probably wasn't the software that they're selling.
No.
And there are a lot of sales engineers today outside of the software world, just no one mentions them for some reason. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure why it's declining now, even though we're in the boom of sales engineering. It's
book-wise, right? There's social media. There's a lot. There are forums and channels and stuff like that, or YouTube, right? I don't think it's that bad. This is only books. Okay. But
your book's enough. Your books should be enough to raise the graph. Come on now. You should write more books then.
I'm on it. No, but I think there's an important bit to that, because everybody who's new in the role, right? Books are great mentors, like you said before, and everybody who's actually going to train other people, like I, for example, I love reading books from other experts, because they also I built my craft to this too, right? So in that regard, it's weird, I think, that there's so less. Just very interesting fact, maybe.
Yeah. You need to fix it, Patrick. We're all counting on you.
I'm on it, mate. I'm on it. Let's see. I'm waiting for your book. How many pages will it have?
I have no idea. So far, it has like 60 pages or something. I just keep writing the first 60 pages over and over.
Oh, I mean, that's something.
It's still like chapter 1.
Okay. But for 10 chapters or 20 or?
Now I need to bring it up. So let me. I think I have like 5 sections and 20 chapters maybe. But now I'm curious about it. Let me see. I don't know. Do we have time?
Yeah, sure. We have always time for you.
Oh, thank you. Let's see.
While we talk books, let me bring this up. So there are just 2 books perfect for Christmas. So if you are account executive and watching this, treat your SE something, right? So okay. Sorry for the promotion.
All good. You're deceiving, like that picture about the sales engineer exposed. It looks like a book, but it's an ebook, right? It's an ebook.
It's a short story. Yes.
Yeah. So when I see it, I'm like, I want that in my hands, but it's an ebook, which is still good. So I have some.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it, but it has only 60 pages because it's a short story. But I want to make an audiobook of this, so that you have ebook or audiobook.
Okay, I have a question about that, but just to answer your question, it's 5 parts and 17 chapters, which is funny because the last chapter is like about social selling, and just 1 chapter. You have an entire book. But let me ask you this: why did you decide to write the book, like as a story, like the social sales engineer? Why did you decide to have characters and a story instead of like an informational book? What drove that?
To be honest, because I would love to read something like this.
Okay.
It just goes down much better, I think. You're just drawn into the pages, and I don't know, and all the feelings of young sales engineers, their problems and what they think, right? The conflicts they have. I think there is a learning in there too, and you just go through this, right? At least that's my hope.
What I loved about it is that the main character, Elias, is not a rookie SE. Like, that's an experienced SE who's going through a transformation. Like, versus, because I see a lot of experienced SEs don't want to do that. And it's nice to have an example. Like, I know it's fictional, but this could be someone real who has an aha moment and then decides to go through that. So I like that.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. No, and the other book is similar. That's complete creative non-fiction. And but I hope you have to read it at some point.
Yeah, I'll definitely read it.
I will come back to you on that. Great. Let me see what else I have in my bucket. What's there? We had a lot of questions covered. So the point is, you are so good, and I need to give this back to you because you're a real great moderator. You know, answering on the point, right? So there's a lot of time. So how long did it take you that you say, I'm good at moderating and I feel comfortable moderating whoever comes into my show?
I honestly don't remember that point. Like, as I mentioned earlier, I feel like I always have something to learn. But like it was gradual improvement. It wasn't like one day I was bad, one day I'm good. So I don't remember that point. But recently I had someone on the podcast, and he didn't want to come.
Oh,
he didn't want to just join the podcast. So I figured, hey, let's just have a chat.
Yeah.
Like, he was interested, but he was worried because he said he didn't have a lot to say. And within the first 5 minutes of just having a discussion, it wasn't on the podcast, he's like, okay, now I know what I'm going to talk about on the podcast. And after the podcast, after like a few weeks later, we did the interview, and I asked him for feedback, which is what I usually do with my guests. And he said, you know what? I think your superpower is being able to allow someone to see the information that they have within them so that they can present it to the people. That was an aha moment that I never thought about. And that was recent. That was a few weeks ago or a couple months ago.
So every podcast is kind of mirror, like it mirrors you?
Yeah, I mean...
or the guests mirror you in some way?
I don't think the guests mirror me, but I'm able to get information from them, things that they never thought that they would share or would want to share or would be helpful to someone, or they didn't even know they know. Just because we don't talk about sales engineering much. I mean, how many people in your family know what sales engineering is? So we don't get to talk about it. I didn't wait for you to answer the question just in case you have a few.
So my family would be tough to even, they would have challenges saying it because it's English.
There you go. But we don't talk about sales engineering, so we don't always formulate our thoughts. We do a lot of things by feeling. So just the fact that we get to talk, and now they have something solid in front of them, they are thinking about it and talking about it. They enjoy it. They enjoy the process.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's amazing. I have one last question for you, and this comes from, I saw one of your shows, and there was a book in the back, like Tim Ferriss, I think, A Tribe of Mentors.
Yeah.
And I got it as an audiobook, and I loved it. So I spoiled no one, but do you have any book recommendation for a sales engineer that's not a typical sales engineering book? Like,
How many do you want?
Yeah, give me 3
Okay.
of the greatest books.
Atomic Habits. It's all about building habits. Where I talked about one
Yeah.
earlier, so that's one. Limitless, which is about the power of like learning and how people think that, you know, kind of like mindset where you stop learning at one point, but the book Limitless talks about how you can continue learning and how you can do speed reading. Not that I'm good at speed reading. A third book. There's so many on my bookshelf that are right behind the camera that I can't. Hold on.
Cut.
There was a book that I can't remember what it's called right now for some reason, but I'll say Mindset. Mindset is a good book.
Mindset is good. Yeah, amazing. So that's great. Thanks for answering all those questions. One more, but that's really the last, because I ask it on every episode. For our next show, would you please nominate somebody you think should be on this show? Do you have a person in mind? I should have asked that before, maybe, but
I can send you a list. I mean, there are so many people that should be on the show. Chris White being one, John Kerr, Peter Con, you know, the usual suspects.
Let me add to that. Let me say a hero in our realm that is maybe not a guru, but people who actually are really good in what they do in their daily life, like hidden heroes. That's how I love to call it.
Hidden heroes.
But we can talk afterwards. If
yeah, I'm gonna have to. I have a list of people who've been on the podcast who were great. We can. I'll have to talk. I'll have to think about it and like remember everybody, because it's been 180 of them or so.
Okay, that's many. I mean, one. But okay. Any last words you want to say?
No, I mean, Patrick, this has been amazing. I really enjoyed talking to you, and
likewise.
You know, good luck with the new season. I'm looking forward to see what you do there, because
Cool.
you're one of the SEs or gurus who actually really thinks outside the box. Like, you do things differently than a lot of people. So, you know, no one's ever talked about, what was it, opportunity sex? I can't remember, which is, I don't know if I was supposed to say that, but it's not what you think. So yeah, so I appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
We should have at least some sex. So
Yeah.
Good. Wise last words. Thank you everybody for watching. It was a pleasure, Ramzi. Thank you very much. And we are out of here. We see us next year, like after the break. We do a break. Yeah, see you then, and bye-bye. We're heading out with the video.